hijacked a plane, jumped into a storm at 10,000 feet, and vanished without a trace. No body, no parachute. No one ever saw him again. For over 50 years, the world has hunted a ghost named D.B. Cooper. Was he a desperate man or a criminal genius who got away clean? The clues are real. The mystery is chilling. This is the true story of the greatest unsolved skyjacking in history. Into thin air. The hijacking and vanishing act. It was the day before Thanksgiving, November 24th, 1971, and Portland International Airport was humming with holiday travelers. Among the crowd walked a man in his mid-40s, neatly dressed in a dark suit, white shirt, black tie, and polished shoes. He looked more like a businessman than a criminal. He carried a briefcase and paid cash for a one-way ticket to Seattle. The name he gave? Dan Cooper. No one paid him much attention as he boarded Northwest Orient Flight 305, a short hop to Seattle with 36 passengers and 6 crew members. Cooper took seat 18C in the rear of the Boeing 727. He ordered a bourbon and soda, lit a cigarette, and waited. Just after takeoff, he turned to flight attendant Florence Schaffner and handed her an envelope. She assumed it was a phone number, until he leaned in and whispered, "Miss, you'd better read that. I have a bomb." Inside was a typed note and a glimpse of wires and red sticks nestled in his briefcase. The cabin remained calm. Cooper was polite, almost professional. His demands were clear: $200,000 in negotiable American currency, 4 parachutes, 2 main, 2 reserve, and a fuel truck ready on the ground in Seattle. If they didn't comply, he said calmly, he'd do the job. As the plane circled above Seattle, the FBI and local police scrambled to meet his demands. Ransom money was pulled together in marked $20 bills. Parachutes were rushed in from a nearby skydiving school. Cooper spoke through stewardess Tina Mucklow, who acted as his go-between. He never shouted, never panicked. He sipped his drink and watched the clouds roll by. By 5:45 p.m., the Boeing touched down under cover of darkness. The plane taxied to a remote corner of the runway. The passengers, who hadn't even realized they were hostages, were quietly released. Cooper kept the crew on board. The money and parachutes were delivered, and he allowed the jet to refuel. Then came his final command. Fly to Mexico City, slow and low, with the rear stairway lowered midair. Flight 305 took off again at 7:36 p.m. Somewhere between Seattle and Reno, with the sky howling and the forest below shrouded in rain and moonless dark, Cooper opened the back stairway. He strapped on a parachute, grabbed the ransom, and leapt. When the plane landed in Reno hours later, the crew crept back to find nothing. The staircase was partially lowered, damaged from mid-air use. Cooper was gone. So was the bomb. So was the money. All that remained was a clip-on black tie left draped across his seat, a phantom in the night sky. No manhunt in American history had ever started like this. D.B. Cooper, whoever he really was, had pulled off the impossible. He hijacked a plane, jumped into the darkness, and vanished. Not just into the woods, but into legend. Manhunt in the shadows, FBI, forests, and frustration. As the Boeing 727 rolled to a stop in Reno, FBI agents were already racing to surround it. Guns drawn, nerves high, they stormed the aircraft expecting a final standoff or a body. Instead, they found silence and a chilling absence. The rear stairs were ajar, bent from use in midair. The man known as Dan Cooper was gone, vanished into the night without a trace. No parachute caught in trees, no broken body sprawled in the snow. Just a black clip-on tie left neatly behind on his seat, 8 cigarette butts in the ashtray, and 2 unused parachutes. The most daring skyjacking in American history had instantly become its most baffling mystery. Within hours, the full weight of the FBI descended upon the Pacific Northwest. Composite sketches of Cooper's face, dark hair, sunglasses, calm demeanor, were broadcast coast to coast. But no one could say when or where exactly he had jumped. Not the pilots. Not the 2 military jets that had silently tailed Flight 305. Not even the crew in the cabin. Somewhere, mid-flight, the man had slipped into the sky and disappeared. Agents turned to radar logs and cockpit communications, slowly reconstructing the plane's journey. Cooper had demanded a specific flight configuration: flaps at 15 degrees, altitude under 10,000 feet, gear down, which severely limited their route. The captain, improvising without Cooper's input, followed Victor 23, a known airway running from Seattle south through the thick wilderness of Washington state. That corridor became the FBI's best guess, and it was vast. At daybreak, helicopters swept low over forests shrouded in fog. Ground teams trudged through freezing underbrush. Search dogs barked into the void. The terrain was brutal: thick evergreens, steep ridges, biting wind, and snow that fell like a shroud. Investigators combed an area north of Portland for weeks, following every creek and trail, chasing phantom parachutes and footprints that led nowhere. But Cooper had left no trail, no torn fabric, no snapped branches, no money floating downstream. He had either been swallowed by the landscape or had moved through it like a ghost. As the days turned to weeks, frustration set in. The media frenzy painted him as a folk hero, a criminal with style, nerve, and a clean getaway. The FBI, embarrassed and empty-handed, could only watch as tips poured in from across the country, each one more useless than the last. Still, agents pressed on, driven by the impossibility of it all. No man should have survived that leap, not into freezing rain, not in loafers and a business suit, not with the night sky as his only witness. But no body surfaced, no gear, nothing. And so the manhunt became a waiting game, a deadly quiet chess match between law enforcement and a man who had disappeared into the wilderness like smoke. The world was watching. The pressure mounted. But in those towering woods, amid the wind and silence, the shadows gave nothing back. A beach called Tina. The clue that wasn't meant to be found. Nearly 9 years had passed since D.B. Cooper jumped into the night and vanished. The case had gone cold, icy cold. No parachute, no ransom money, no bones in the woods. The FBI still fielded tips, still chased shadows, but Cooper had become more legend than man. Then in February 1980, fate, or something stranger, nudged the story back to life. On the banks of the Columbia River, near Vancouver, Washington, a boy named Brian Ingram was digging a fire pit while camping with his family. The spot was called Tina Bar, a flat, sandy beach named long before stewardess Tina Mucklow found herself face-to-face with America's most mysterious fugitive. Brian's stick struck something buried deep beneath the sand. Curious, he clawed through the earth and unearthed something extraordinary. Rotting bundles of $20 bills, bundled in stacks, darkened by time and grit. The total, $5,880. The boy's parents called the authorities. The FBI came running. Serial numbers were checked, and then came the bombshell. They matched. These were the same bills given to D.B. Cooper back in 1971. After nearly a decade of dead ends, this was the first real piece of him to surface. But instead of answers, the find only twisted the mystery tighter. The beach where Brian found the cash, Tina Bar, was around 20 miles from Cooper's estimated drop zone. But the Columbia River didn't flow that way. It moved in the opposite direction. The money shouldn't have been able to get there naturally, not by current, not by accident. Even stranger, the 3 bundles were stacked together, buried close, their rubber bands still intact. That detail rattled investigators. Rubber bands, when exposed to open air and moisture, should have disintegrated within a year. But these had survived nearly a decade in the elements. It didn't add up. If the money had been floating in the river for years, how had the bands held? And why would it all end up together on the same beach, neatly grouped, not scattered by tide or time? The theories spiraled. Maybe Cooper had survived and buried it himself. Maybe someone else had found his stash, or his body, and reburied the cash for reasons unknown. Or maybe Cooper had tried to fake his own death, or had lost some money midair. Or maybe, just maybe, this was a plant, a message, a warning, a trick. The sand offered no clues. The rest of the money was nowhere to be found. Dredging operations in 1974 had dumped sediment nearby. but the bills were found above that layer, meaning they had to have arrived after that year. But how? By who? And why? Tina Bar became sacred ground for Cooper sleuths and searchers, but nothing more was found. It was as if Cooper had reached out from the dark, whispered, "I'm still here," and then vanished again. Just like before, the evidence whispered, and then the silence returned. The man who fell from the sky, did he die or did he disappear? They called it a suicide jump, a death wish, a last stand in a trench coat and loafers. Experts lined up to say what the FBI wanted to hear. D.B. Cooper couldn't have survived. The facts seemed to agree. Flight 305 was slicing through a cold, punishing rainstorm at 170 knots. It was 10,000 feet up, pitch black, and the forests of southern Washington below were unforgiving, rugged ridge lines, freezing rivers, trees like spears. Cooper jumped into that. No goggles, no boots, no survival gear. Just a bundle of cash, a parachute, and iron nerves. But here's the thing. This wasn't a man guessing his way through a fantasy. This was a man who knew things. He knew the Boeing 727 was the only commercial jet with an aft stairway you could open midair. He knew how to keep the plane flying slow and low, even dictating precise flap and gear settings. He knew about McCord Air Force Base, casually referencing its location and distance from the Seattle airport. He chose his moment just after takeoff from Seattle, just before radar coverage weakened over the wilderness. This wasn't luck, it was design. Even his demand for 4 parachutes was cunning. It tricked the FBI into thinking he might take a hostage with him, so they couldn't sabotage any of the chutes. They gave him 2 mains and 2 reserves, one of which, unknown to them at the time, was a dummy chute used only for training. Cooper took it. Suicidal mistake? Maybe. Or maybe he wasn't planning to wear it at all. One crew member later recalled watching Cooper struggle to wrap the money bag into the reserve chute's cords. Maybe the dummy chute was for the cash, a makeshift harness, not a lifeline. But then comes the contradiction. If Cooper was trained, say ex-CIA or a paratrooper from Vietnam, why choose the older, less maneuverable military chute over the sleek civilian one? Why jump into unknown terrain without a map, a helmet, or even warm clothes? Unless he did know the terrain, unless he had a plan we never uncovered. There were no reports of a man missing, no bones found in the forest, no torn canopy tangled in the trees. The ground teams, helicopters, and dogs all came up empty. Even the military jets that tailed Flight 305 saw nothing, heard nothing. Only the flight crew heard a thump, an unexplained vibration, just after 8 p.m., a leap into darkness, a splash of noise, and then silence. Maybe he died on impact. Maybe he drowned in a river. Maybe the cold killed him before sunrise. Or maybe, just maybe, he slipped through the trees, wet and grinning, the money strapped to his chest, disappearing into the night like a phantom. There is no proof he lived, but there's no proof he died either. And so Cooper didn't just jump from a plane, he jumped into myth. Men who could be ghosts. The faces behind the name. D.B. Cooper left behind no blood, no fingerprints, and no face anyone could remember with certainty. But in the decades that followed his vanishing act, men began to appear, strange men with hidden pasts, eerie coincidences, and secrets buried in shallow graves. Suspects rose and fell like shadows flickering in a storm. Each one fit the legend until they didn't. Robert Rackstraw was the first to make jaws clench at the FBI. A decorated veteran, skilled pilot, explosives expert, and con man with a rap sheet longer than a parachute cord, he had the right experience. He had the attitude. He had an uncle who was a skydiver named Cooper. When questioned, Rackstraw danced around the truth like a man who wanted to be caught or wanted the attention. Could be, he smirked. Wouldn't discount myself. But the closer you looked, the more he slipped through your fingers. He was too young. His eyes were the wrong color. Like Cooper himself, Rackstraw was smoke. Kenneth Christensen ticked off boxes like a checklist. Flight attendant for Northwest Airlines? Check. Paratrooper? Check. Left-handed, just like Cooper seemed to be? Check. After his death, his brother found over $200,000 in the bank and remembered him saying cryptically, "There's something you should know, but I can't tell you." Even Florence Schaffner, the stewardess Cooper handed his note to, said Christensen looked like him, but the resemblance faded under the microscope. Christensen was shorter, slighter, balder. The Cooper in the sketches had more hair and a different build. Another ghost, another maybe. Then came Richard McCoy, not a maybe, but a copycat. In 1972, just months after Cooper's skyjacking, McCoy hijacked a Boeing 727, demanded parachutes and cash, and jumped from the rear stairs. Sound familiar? He even used the same phrase, "No funny stuff." But McCoy came too prepared. Helmet, jumpsuit, clear drop zone. He was caught days later and shot dead in a prison escape attempt. The match was close, but not perfect. All three flight attendants from Cooper's flight said McCoy wasn't him. Perhaps he just studied the master and tried to outdo him. He didn't. Dwayne Weber, a man with a crumbling body and a guilty soul, whispered to his wife on his deathbed, "I'm Dan Cooper." Afterwards, she recalled odd moments, a knee injury he couldn't explain, nightmares about leaving fingerprints on the plane stairs, a strange visit to Tina Bar before the money was found there. He looked like the sketch. He was the right age. But when the FBI tested the DNA from the tie clasp, it didn't match. Then again, was that even Cooper's DNA? And the cigarette butts, potential goldmine of DNA, had mysteriously vanished from evidence. Finally, there was William Smith, a quiet, blue-collar yardmaster from the East Coast. Military background, dark features, a potential grudge after his pension disappeared. He worked in environments where rare metals, like the ones found on Cooper's tie, were common, but he lived far from the Pacific Northwest. Could he have pulled it off from so far away? Each man wore the mask for a moment. Each one slipped out of it like smoke. In the end, the closer you get to Cooper, the more he dissolves. Every suspect is a puzzle piece from the wrong box. Every clue cuts both ways. These aren't just men, they're ghosts. And Cooper, he's still the most perfect ghost of all. Silence at 10,000 feet. The final descent. For 45 years, the legend of D.B. Cooper crackled through FBI phone lines, ignited conspiracy boards, and haunted the dreams of agents who couldn't let go. They chased him through forests, followed whispers through desert towns, and dug into coal ground hoping to unearth clues. But in July 2016, the Bureau quietly closed the case. No arrests, no body, no confession. Just a file packed with what-ifs and a man who had jumped into nothing and stayed there. The last known truth is still suspended in the sky, frozen in time somewhere between Seattle and Reno, 1,000 feet below the clouds. It's 1971 again. The wind howls at the open rear stairway of Flight 305. The rain slashes sideways. A man in a business suit clutches a satchel of cash and steps into the void. And then, silence. In the years that followed, investigators clung to anything. They zoomed in on Cooper's abandoned black tie and found microscopic metal particles embedded in the fabric. Rare alloys, including pure titanium. In 1971, those materials weren't just lying around. They came from specific places: aircraft manufacturing plants, metallurgical labs, rail yards. Was Cooper a Boeing employee, a chemical technician, a railroad man with steel dust in his collar? Or maybe the particles were just a coincidence. Maybe Cooper was no one. Maybe he left that tie behind to throw them off, one last smirk before vanishing for good. Even now, theories spiral like smoke. Some say he never made it to the ground, that he died tangled in pine branches or drowned in a hidden ravine, that animals picked his bones clean and snow buried the rest, that the forest swallowed him whole. But others believe Cooper survived, that he landed hard, maybe with broken ribs and frostbitten fingers, but alive, that he limped through the dark with the money still strapped to his chest, that he reached a back road, a cabin, a train line, that he stripped off his suit, burned it, and walked back into the world as if nothing had happened. Who was he? A desperate man with nothing to lose? A rogue agent with scores to settle? A blue-collar worker who wanted to stick it to the system and vanish like a magic trick? No one knows. And maybe that's the point. D.B. Cooper didn't just steal $200,000. He didn't just outwit the FBI. He stole his own ending. He took the final chapter of his story and buried it somewhere the world can never reach. He left behind doubt, awe, obsession, and a silence that still hums at 10,000 feet. No note, no message, no body, only questions, only legend, only the wind where a man once was. And maybe that's why we still look up at the sky, wondering if, just maybe, he made it.